Hey, what's up? GW coming to you live. I've been up early this morning and I actually caught the new Demi Moore movie, The Substance, which, if you guys haven't seen it, this thing, I gotta tell you, is just explosive to say the least. You could classify it as many things. You could say it's a horror film, it's a body horror film, it's a cautionary tale on appearances and media, and you could just say it's just an ick movie. So we're going to get into all that in just a minute. But I got to tell you something. I haven't seen Demi Moore in a film since Striptease. So it was nice to see her in this. And I'm going to tell you something. She looks pretty good. And she doesn't look half bad as an actress. So, but this thing is not for everybody. I'm going to tell you that right now. It was directed by a girl named Coralie Fargate. And she, if this is her first film, then it's an amazing effort. First of all, before I get into the story, the gore, and all that other stuff, the camera work was amazing. The cinematography was good. The set pieces were amazing, and it was just shot very, very great. Has a pretty good cast. In addition to Demi Moore, you have Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid is always like good when he's playing like a seedy side character type person. Um, in this film, he plays Harvey, head of a studio, and another great talent in this film is Demi Moore's younger version of herself, played by Margaret Qualley. And I've never seen her before in anything. And if this is anything to go by, she is going places. And I hope to God she gets a starring vehicle. But let's talk about this, because I know you tune into my channel not to hear about, you know, stories. You want to hear about gore. You want to know about what this movie is, what I think it is. And I just told you a minute ago, it's an ick factor movie. It's a body horror film. It is a cautionary tale about beauty and society. And it treads the line. In fact, it almost maybe goes over the line that David Cronenberg set, with The Fly, with the Jeff Goldblum thing. Yeah. So there's a lot to talk about. Basically, Demi Moore plays Elizabeth Sparkle. Elizabeth Sparkle has an aerobics show, and she's being outed, so to speak. They want to replace her with somebody who's new, who is more beautiful, more vivacious, is going to draw in more viewers. Um, so after a restroom visit and hearing Harvey talk about how she needs to be replaced, within a blink of an eye, she stumbles upon a drug called the Substance. Now, what does that do, you ask? Well, it creates a better version of yourself, but there are rules. There is a specific set of rules that you have to go by to maintain, you know, the your other perfect self, for lack of a better word. When you don't follow the rules, wicked things happen. So, in the course of all in this experiment, the all it takes is one injection, and she can split into her younger self. But again, like I just said, there are rules. Um, there is one major rule in this film, and it's gonna become more prevalent as you get into the movie. Um, 1 week. So 1 week you have to be your normal self. The next week you can be your better self. Um, so when you don't follow that balance, which is what this film kind of shows, little side effects start happening. Maybe your finger turns brown, you know. Maybe you skip a timeline and end up where you age quicker. But this film, I'm not even going to go into detail, but about this. But let's just say that it goes to great lengths to really show what happens when you don't follow the rules. But then on the one hand, if you were given that choice to be somebody, a better version of yourself, would you take it knowing that there could be possible consequences? Or would you just say, you know what, I'm fine right where I'm at? After watching this, it really does make you question that. Now, before I even was interested in this film, as you guys know, I like Necro. Necro's on Patreon. Necro actually did a reaction video to this movie where he said the ending of it rivals Carrie. That's some big shoes to fill. But you know what? He's not wrong. The climax of this film is probably one of the bloodiest things I have ever seen since the infamous prom scene in Carrie. But, again, I just mentioned this is a cautionary tale. Be careful what you wish for. So, the question is, if you were given that choice, what would you do? I think everybody should watch this film who's into, Cronenberg movies, horror, or just wants a very in your face, no punches pulled, cautionary tale. The gore, I gotta tell you, the gore is actually done by practical effects and it looks amazing. Like I said, it almost rivals The Fly in that respect. The acting is top notch, basically. Toward the climax of the movie, you start to notice that this film is never going to have a happy ending, which it doesn't. And it is, like I said, it's more of a social commentary on beauty in America because they say beauty's only skin deep. But there's more to a person than just looks. You know what I'm saying? But I think this also puts a capper on Hollywood because Hollywood's always looking for the next hot, beautiful model, the next Marilyn Monroe, the next, whatever in that respect. But, what's on the inside doesn't always show. And it's great. The other thing is there is probably more injections in this film than anything that I have seen on TV. Maybe if you put like 3 Chicago meds back to back, you'll see more injections in there. But the if you're a little bit queasy about needles or needles going in skin, I would suggest blink your eyes. The creature effects toward the end are just top notch. Trying to think who does this. I don't know who did the effects, but they're great. There's a lot of carnage in this film too. Not necessarily murders. There is one murder that, toward the end of the film, the younger version of Demi Moore, played by Margaret Qualley, actually kills Demi Moore's character. I would say kill or destroys, more maybe like a better word, in a mirror, and it's pretty wicked. The climax of the movie is just watching Margaret Qualley's character Sue disintegrate. Now, this movie is about 2 hours and 12 minutes long, but it starts out slow. And it really does, like I said, again, it asks the question, if you were given this chance, what would you do? This film, I know, I bought it. It is streaming free on an app called Mubi. I don't know much about them. I was actually going to get the app to watch this movie, but then they wanted the credit card information, all that other stuff. So I was like, you know what? I'll just buy it. Apparently, this thing was a hit. I believe it was at Sundance, some film festivals. It won a lot of awards, and I know Demi Moore has won a lot for this. And it was awesome to see Demi Moore in a horror film because I do not remember her in any horror film that I can remember, currently. This is a very twisted feature. And like I said, the end of it does rival Carrie in a way. And 90% of the budget probably went to blood at the end of this. But they had a huge budget for this. When you look at the sets and the set pieces, they are amazing. And this is not your run-of-the-mill horror film where it's gore, 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 gore. This is a slow burn build-up film to ultimately, it gives you like a little taste. A little taste. The other thing about this film is that there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of nudity in this. This probably is what they got to film in R. There's hardly any profanity in it. I mean, I counted maybe 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5 F-bombs in the whole movie. But the nudity is just sometimes very gratuitous. And that's not a bad thing, because as excessive as it is with Demi Moore's character Elizabeth Sparkle and her doppelganger Sue, it shows the difference between old and young. And I think that's what the filmmaker was going for. There's also nudity in the monster at the end, which the design was just, it's creepy as crap. I'm going to tell you that right now. So yeah, there's even some full frontal nudity in this with Demi Moore, and it was interesting because, like I said, she does not look bad at all. She doesn't. Also, Margaret Qualley, Sue, in the movie, does some full frontal too, and I think it takes guts. I think it takes guts for any actress to disrobe on camera, knowing that millions of people are going to see you naked, millions of people are going to fantasize about you. She had no qualms about it. And she, like I said, she's going places. If this is her first film, she is definitely going places. The only thing, again, with this movie is you really have to pay attention, because once they start switching off and on for 1 week, the two main characters, it does get a little confusing. There is a lot of unwritten rules that if you watch the beginning of this and you see the rules for the chemical, the substance, they don't really go into it. Now, I don't know if this thing is going to have a sequel, because there is a scene in the diner where Demi Moore's character, Elizabeth Sparkle, meets another person who is, doing this drug, the substance. And there's a small interaction there, and it just leads you to believe that she's not the only one that is going through this. So there might be a potential sequel there. Potential. Now, I don't know, because I don't know how well this film was well received. I can tell you that this film is for people that love horror movies, love body horror movies, like nudity in their movies, that like cautionary tales. If you blend them all up, this movie is amazing. And I did not ever think that this film was going to reach the gore limits that it did, but it did. I mean, you have teeth falling out, you have fingernails breaking, you have a head being hacked off with an axe, blood spray like a fire engine or fire hose. You have a doppelganger coming out of the back of Demi Moore, a suture scene. You have a lot of stuff. And the other thing this film does well is between Elizabeth Sparkle and Sue, you see the difference in personalities. One wants everything. The other one wants to be cautious. And it's a good clash. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, this movie is very, very... It really shocked me about how far it went with some of the content. Like I said, the nudity and the gore. I knew it was going to be a bloody movie, but I had no idea that it was going to be in your face. And I'll tell you something, you probably need a cigarette or a drink after watching this, because it really drives home the point. I really enjoyed it. It's It's one of those movies that, maybe you watch once a year. But I got to hand it to Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid. Both of them are awesome, and it's great to see them back in the movies. Demi Moore, like I said, Striptease, Indecent Proposal. She used to be, queen of the cinema. Married to Bruce Willis. She was pretty awesome. And it's good to see her back doing something. And I'm glad she picked this project. A lot of people, I don't think, would pick a movie like this because of the subject matter and the content, if you will. But definitely one word to describe this, I would say explosive horror. That's my take on it. But yeah, if you have Mubi and you like horror films, check it out. Like I said, it's a little long. It's about 2 hours and 21 minutes long. So I got up fairly early to watch this because I wanted to bring this review to you guys. And a lot of people that I have been telling, hey, I'm going to check this out. They're like, dude, I want to hear about it. I want to hear about it. So Connor, all my horror fanatics out there, I hope you guys like this. This thing is awesome. The only drawback to this is if you do buy it, the only bonus you get is a featurette, which after watching the entire movie, I was a little exhausted about, like I said, of how far this movie did go. So I didn't check that out. But definitely, this shows the dark side of Hollywood beauty, if you will. The gore is amazing. I wish I knew who did the practical effects, but as of right now, it doesn't say. But this was a very, very, very awesome flick. And, quite frankly, I don't think it got the publicity it deserved. But this is really an interesting horror. I've never seen a movie quite like this. This is a unique film in terms of, story and gore, and it recaptures, like I said, the essences of Cronenberg or Stuart Gordon, maybe, if you will, if you're looking for the Reanimator. It captures something out of those two filmmakers. And this filmmaker here, this what did I say her name was? Coraline Fargy. She must have been, a fan of horror films our life, because this is well put together. You can't find a flaw in this film other than the fact that maybe it ran a little bit too long. And that's it. But it needed to. The end of the movie does make an exclamation point. It's not a positive one, but it does make one that, being beautiful isn't everything. People are going to remember you not for being beautiful, but from the talent you bring to the camera, what you do in this film. And I think that drives it home. Very, very awesome, gory, cautionary tale. I highly recommend it. It was not what I expected, but it was something far superior. So definitely check out The Substance. Like I said, it flew under the radar, I think, a little bit. And once people start checking it out on video, it's going to probably become one of these films that have a cult following, So I really recommend it. So pick it up. I did, and I don't regret it. So, GW, see you on the flip side. Thank you for watching. Also, I just on a sidebar, just want to say, hey, I dropped that Josh promo. A lot of people who don't even like wrestling were telling me that, hey, I was in character. Josh really dug it. And anybody that knows me knows I only cut promos on my best friends as a way of just saying, hey, bro, I like you. It's that guy code thing. So I just wanted to say that went over pretty big. That got about, got some views to it. Tomorrow, if I get a minute, I am going to check out the 1980s slasher Sorority House Massacre. We're going to dive into that. It just got a new release, so I'm going to check out my old DVD copy, see how well it holds up. But yeah, Substance, 4 out of 5 stars. GW says, go for it.